The Australian Ultimate League is only possible thanks to the generous support of our major partners. Bendigo Private Banking Services. Visit their website bendigoprivate.com.au to help you manage all your personal or business banking needs. Discraft. The leaders in flying discs for over 25 years. Their Ultrastar is the preferred disc of all World Championship events and the Australian Ultimate League. And Zone Ultimate Custom Sports Apparel. Check out their new range of custom warm-up jackets and pants at zoneultimate.com.
Welcome to the fourth round of the Australian Ultimate League. I'm your commentator, Rob Swan, here with my partner, Natalie Morma. We're excited to bring you this matchup.
It's going to be an amazing game, Sydney versus Canberra. I'm excited to see who's going to win this one.
Absolutely, and it's a really important game. The Suns having dropped their only game against Melbourne so far. If they want to book themselves a spot in the final, they can't afford any more losses going from here.
Yeah, Free started off strong with a win over Perth Power in the first round, but they lost their two games against Brisbane and Melbourne, only falling short by 2 points in the last round against the Flames.
Yeah, it's good to see that the Freeze can really push it with the currently undefeated Flames. I'd really like to see them get a big scalp here today.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting seeing who comes out on top.
These two cities have matched up a number of times throughout Ultimate, playing in the Eastern region. A lot of these players would have seen each other throughout the regular season and competed with a spot at national championships.
What are the main strengths of the other team that you really want to try and shut down?
Well, I think some of their strengths are that there's a lot of locals on the team, so they've really had a good opportunity to gel together. I know they've had a lot of practices together, so I think trying to break up their rhythm very early is going to be a big key for us. They've got a couple of really strong throwers and some really good cutters to hit, so that's really going to be where we're going to have to focus our attention.
So on those good cutters and throwers, are there ones specifically that you really want to focus on?
Oh, I think we're going to play around with our matchups a little bit, see if they're working for us. Don't want to give too much away, but there's some big names on that team, and for us, we've got to make sure that we're matching up the right people against them.
What are their main strengths? Are they quick, tall? What's the biggest problem?
They've kind of got a breadth of strength. That's what makes them hard, is they've got some big, tall players, they've got some massive throwers, and they've got a lot of speed as well. I think particularly in their girls, the speed is going to be a factor that we're really going to have to counteract.
Is there anything that they're a bit weaker at that you might be able to get on top of?
Well, if it's warm today, they could be in trouble, so we'll have to wait and see. We know they're used to playing in the cold conditions. We're hoping that we can get them a bit on the transition. That's what we're hoping. If we get the disc, that we can move really quickly up the field and convert those points quickly.
Yeah, if there was one key message you'd tell your team ahead of this specific match, what would it be?
Oh, that's a tough one. We actually really just want them to enjoy themselves, because this is a new format for everybody. We're excited about it, and we want them to just go out there and have an amazing time and put on some really entertaining Ultimate for the fans.
Great, thank you very much. So what are the main challenges you're going to face in this game?
Well, the Sydney Suns are an extremely experienced team. They have 8 players who have represented Australia at World Games. So they got strong throws, they've got a lot of speed. It's going to be a big challenge. We're just going to have to play our hardest and really try. We're going to try and disrupt the way they play. There's a lot of footage of them, so we can see what style they might probably play. So we'll try and disrupt that style and see if we can force some turnovers, get some goals ourselves.
So you mentioned they've got some really strong throwers. So is there anyone specifically you want to shut down and any key matchups?
In this game, Tom Tullett is going to be the strongest thrower. And New Zealand import Liam Haberfield, don't know a lot about him. Rumour is that he's a good strong thrower as well. So Mark Evans is resting this game. So that's another one we don't have to look out for, which is great.
So how are you what strategies are you gonna enforce to like stop those players?
The other problem is that a lot of the women are very fast. They have Rosie Dawson, Sarah Wentworth, Danny Alexander, among others. So we're probably going to have to back them when the strong throwers have the disc and force them under. The main thing we want to disrupt is their recycling, so their dump and swing set will be very strong, and if we can disrupt that, we want to try and get some turnovers down our end, make it easier for us to score.
Yep, so they're quick, they've got good throws, so is there anything that their weaknesses that you could kind of try to get on top of there?
No, I don't. We don't have any weaknesses. We assume they're from Sydney, so they probably have a very specific style of play, and they might come out and do something completely different, but who knows? That we assume that they're going to play a specific way, and so we're going to try and make them do something different, and make them, if they can do something different and they're not comfortable with that, then maybe we have a chance.
Yep. And so, is there a key message you give to your players ahead of this game?
Basically, we've got the focuses are like stopping the fast women catching it long from the good throwers. So if we can do that and really be on it, it's going to make them throw more throws and try things that they're not comfortable doing. So they just stick to the game plan.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you very much.
It's nice to see the coaches looking very prepared there. The Sydney coach Kylie O'Brien talking about working specific matchups so that they have exactly the right player on exactly the right freeze player. Matching up those skill sets and knowing them very well is going to be a key advantage there. It was interesting to see both coaches mention the opposing teams of speedy female receivers as being a threat they had to shut down. So those might cancel each other out. And it was great to see Sydney as well looking to attack on transition. So expecting to see a lot of quick disc movement. After they get a turn, they'll be looking to get it up and move it if they're following the coach's instructions.
Right. Chris Stevens, the freeze coach, says that he wants to shut down the throws from Tom Tullett and Liam Haberfield and stop them from throwing those big throws to their fast women receivers like Danny Alexander, Rosie Dawson, and Sarah Wentworth. It's a really big ask of his team, and I'm looking really forward to seeing if they can pull it off.
Absolutely, and I think the Frees are quite aware of the challenge that they're coming into. They're aware of Sydney as one of the favourites of this competition, but they're no stranger to a challenge. Dan Matthews-Hunter with a disc here, limbering up that shoulder, ready to rip out the first pull. So it'll be Sydney starting on offense, as we saw just before the disc flip being done to decide that, and they'll start with a disc. It's dropping short and rolling out the sideline around about the level of the brick mark, and that might not be the start Canberra have wanted for, but Matthews-Hunter has done a great job of using the roll to ensure it rolls out the sideline rather than out on the full. Thomas with a disc finds Chung in the centre. Not much movement from Sydney, goes around to Neild. Sydney looking patient against this interesting Canberra defence. Chung goes to Blakely, back to Neild. Back to Blakely. Up to Dawson. Back in the centre there, taking their time. Chung with the disc. Chung finds Dawson, finds Blakely on the front cone, and Sydney looking clinical as Neild with the goal, and they've looked largely untroubled. Canberra used a number of different defensive switches to mix things up early in the point, but Sydney just powered their way through.
Right, we saw Sydney using both sides of the field very easily, just moving that disc around, almost as if the defense wasn't really there.
Yeah, and that's the sort of clinical offense that a champion team is going to have. The particularly this early in the game, I would be surprised to see the Freeze come out with a block. Sydney, as has been mentioned numerous times before, is very experienced, and they're not going to be hunting or hungry for those quick goals. They're looking for the sure thing every time.
It will definitely be exciting to see how Freeze responds to this.
Andrews with the pull. He's launched that one up, and it's sitting perfectly. Fielded by Holmes up to Spragg. Back across the field, it's just out of the hands. Haberfield with the disc, finds Andrews in the center of the field. Goes around to Tullett. Tullett surveying his options, goes back to Andrews. Andrews back to Tullett. They're racking up the touches stats. Tullett shoots inside, and Holmes with the block! That's some incredible athleticism coming out early. Goes over to Dow, back to Holmes. Holmes shoots long again, not afraid of the big play. Spragg on the end of it. A lot of separation from Lee. And then leads out the front. But Shea unable to close his hands around that one. And that's a break opportunity for the Freeze, and they'll be very disappointed they gave it away so easily. Chula with the disc. Resets to Andrews. Back to Chula. Chula goes around. Lee on the close sideline. Leads Chula out. It's cutter going long. Chula takes the shot. It's sitting nicely. Oh, and the defense got there just in time. Able to make a play on it. As you see, this huge block. Canberra's really arrived to play. Home showing off the intensity that they're going to need to get blocks against this Sydney team. Looked like Chula might have been a bigger goal hungry there. Opening up a tiny window for a block, but Canberra ever ready to pounce. As Holmes shoots again, it's soaring in the air. And Grange can't quite run that one down, and Chula patrolling deep. A lot of turns already in this second point. As the Suns bring the disc to the front of their end zone. Andrews with it. Back to Chula. Up to Lee on the sideline. Advances to Chula. Chula shoots long. It's sitting nicely. Oh, and right down the sideline. That's everything that it needed to be. Wentworth with a goal. And that is a break for Sydney.
Yeah, that is what the Freeze coach wanted them to stop. They didn't want Teller to be able to make those big throws and have those quick winners catch them. It was a really interesting point. Two big layout Ds. I'm excited to see what Freeze brings next.
Yeah, they really need to get their offense into gear, get their feet under them. I would really like to see them respond here with a calm, clinical, no turnovers hold. If they let Sydney jump out to a 3-0 lead, it's going to be very difficult to claw that back late in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely like to see how Canberra can move the disc up the field.
Yeah, and they'll be wanting to go both ways, and obviously see Dowell on the line there is equipped with quite a powerful hammer, and that could be useful to open up some space for Canberra. As Holmes fields the pull up to Spragg. Spragg looks inside. It's collected. Shea with the disc. Shea looks to dump to Holmes, but that's just not working for him. Neal picks it up and pops it up. And Blakely crumbles under the pressure from Shea. Neal to Blakely is time-honored, time-tested connection, but usually the other way around. Holmes picks up the disc for Canberra. Doesn't see anything he likes. Gets Neil to bite. He's now with his resets. Has late hammer, and Blakely eats that one up. Easy as you like. And that's the way it's supposed to go. Blakely to Neil for the goal. 3-0. Suns dominating the early game.
Yeah, I'm definitely waiting to see Freeze show everything that they have. Let's see them, you know, move that disc a bit more confidently.
Yeah, I think something that the Freeze have done effectively in their previous games has been playing a lot of zone defense. In the 6v6 format, a lot of things are a little bit different, and players are in different positions, and that sort of uncertainty can be all you need to get a block or get an opportunity for it. Sprinkle in a little bit of elite level athleticism, and the disc is yours. Canberra's got to get on defense though. They need to show that they're capable of working the disc like we've talked about. We've seen them have the disc in the hands of experienced throwers like Holmes and Sprague, but just really be unable to generate movement downfield. Looks like the Sydney receivers are playing better defense than the Freeze receivers are playing offense at the moment. Canberra with a forced shot at it. Andrews pulls well, and Lou with a disc. Canberra's changed their lines here. Suzuki on the sideline. Suzuki back into the middle. Matthews Hunter shoots long. Lou's on the end of it. Oh, and that's absolutely well collected by Monty, and a calm flip into Lou. Canberra having to change things up, put on what is normally their defensive line, and it yields them a nice, quick, controlled goal. But Carlet Blue.
Definitely nice seeing the Freeze get on the board.
They've still got a bit of work to do now, and that defensive line coming out and working for that offensive hold now means that they have to back it up, play another point straight away, so that they can execute some of the defensive strategies that they've talked about and that they've utilized in their previous games. They're a deep squad, Canberra, and they'll need to show something special now. They haven't got what might traditionally be considered their very strong throwers, like Holmes, Dale, or Sprague. But Suzuki and Matthews Hunter are very capable of running an offense. Matthews Hunter having done that with the Australian mixed team, and Suzuki with the Australian under-24 mixed team. Both very capable offensive players. As Thomas centers to Chung. And this is that Canberra zone we've been waiting for. Kneeled with a disc of wide. Dawson in the center. Canberra look to be transitioning back to a one-on-one. Dawson with a disc. Parsons unmarked, finds Neil about a meter out, and Dawson just unguardable.
They are just moving so quickly that Freeze just isn't able to catch up to them.
Absolutely, and Dawson getting that separation ahead of Monty, two of the fastest players in the game, but Dawson showing her World Games level experience, timing, and just getting it done there to show what the clinical Sydney offense is and how difficult that's going to be.
With Sydney being up 4-1, Rob, what do you think they need to do to make a change?
I think Canberra have shown that their offense can put it in, they can get on deep. Their zone look at the start made Sydney think a bit, made it change it up, but I would consider, depending on which direction they're pulling, the wind going right to left on your screen, moving perhaps one of their stronger pullers over to the defensive line. Having Sydney take the disc, in front of the brick mark is really making it hard for them to play a full field's worth of defense. Andrews letting that one roll out the side as Holmes goes to Sprague in the center. Sprague finds Mangan. Back to Holmes. Anchoring this offense. To Grange. Grange shoots the backhand. And she was looking for something that wasn't quite there. Dal was perhaps moving into that space, or perhaps it was looking for a throw initiated, but that's definitely a misconnection, and Canberra can't afford to give up the disc that easily. Chula gets it going for Sydney. Goes to Andrews. Andrews bounces that one, but it's fine. Haberfield back to Chula in the center. Chula goes wide. Dawson puts the shot up. That one's got a lot of air underneath it. Oh, and Haberfield off the back, Liam Haberfield, and then immediately foot blocked. Taylor Holmes read his mind, saw what he wanted. Canberra with an opportunity for a hold. Holmes shoots yet again, and that one just dropping right in the hands of Chula. Finds his teammate Andrews and going down that sideline. The Suns happy to move it again, but
oh my goodness.
Canberra clearly been working on their foot blocks. Dal goes to Mangan. Mangan, oh, looking wide for Sprague, but what a block! Sarah Wentworth cuts that out. Dives out ahead of her Firetails teammate. Gets the block. Chula with the disc in the center of Sydney. Maybe their third chance at it. Wentworth getting the better of Sprague yet again. Haberfield with the disc. Goes to Chula. Chula looking patient. Andrews with the disc here. Beautiful bounce, finding a small gap there. And Chula getting around the lackadaisical mark of Dow. It's a turnover. Canberra with the disc again, going the other way. Oh, and the shot goes up! And that is just too far and fast. Shea not having the legs to get underneath that one. Been foot blocks all around.
Yeah, we've had two amazing foot blocks. Some amazing layup Ds.
Wentworth very unhappy that Sprague foot blocked her there, and just turning on the anger jets, getting that layout block, and just to get back on the board. Definitely thinking about her stats. Andrews brings the disc in. Floats that one wide for Chula. Chula back into the center to Wentworth. Wentworth finds Andrews. Andrews wants the shot. He takes it late. And it's rocketing out the back. And just sits in front of Haberfield for the easiest goal you will see today. Shane not putting a lot of pressure on that mark. And Andrews really having exactly what he wanted. Liam Haberfield.
Looks like we're going to be going to this half rather quickly, but I think Canberra can bring it back. We'll see what they do on offense this time. They have some of their more defensive players on right now.
They've definitely shown an ability to get the disc off the Suns. Their defense hasn't been an issue for them. A couple of misconnections from the Suns and some big plays for them, the freeze players, have earned them the possessions they need, but they're just not taking care of the disc and not taking advantage of the options that they have at the moment. Lou with the disc here. Freeze coming out on offense again. Finds Monty. Goes wide to Matthews Hunter. Matthews Hunter bounces that one. Dawson with the disc. Dawson to a diving Lou. Around to Monty. Monty looks for Dawson. Oh, off the leg. An unbelievable read by Barron. Barron goes to Suzuki. Zuki takes the lead around to Lou. He's got Baron lurking deep. Oh, and he tries to throw a beautiful break, and it ends up being a beautiful shoe. Sydney with a disc. Thomas here puts up a big arcing one. Oh, and Chung has just not been involved there. Dawson just take a couple extra steps under the disc. A lot of curl on that one. Lou looking for the open player, but Thomas with the wingspan gets a hand in there. So we see that Sydney's in the opposite situation Canberra were in before. They're now putting their offensive line out on defense. Getting too many blocks as Dawson gets a cheap one there. Straight to Blakely and Chung outside. She's got plenty of time and options. Goes back to Parsons. Parsons, open side flick. Thomas with the goal. Sydney are all over this. Canberra doing their best to get the disc back there, but Matthews Hunter throwing it straight for Dawson. That's 6-1. Sydney with a commanding lead.
And we don't see Sydney really breaking a sweat here. They seem to be getting these goals pretty easily. Some of these points are just going straight to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's good to see them following their coach's instructions and just have a good time and really enjoy what's going on. I think Canberra potentially have gotten in their own heads. You could see their coach, Chris Stevens, before was talking about how this will be a challenge and it will be difficult for them. Potentially that's gotten into the heads of a couple of players and they might be playing a bit scared. And as soon as you're pulling your shots and you're hesitating, a smart defense will eat that for breakfast. Andrews with the pull here. Ripping that one a considerable distance. Canberra haven't been able to match that yet. Shea up to Spragg. Spragg to Dow. Dow back to Shea. Shea finds Holmes. Holmes wants the shot. Goes to Dow. Dow the safe hands for Canberra. Puts one out in front of Spragg. Spragg back to Dow. A lot of work for not a lot of gain right now from Canberra. Grange with a disc. Grange, Holmes in the center. Holmes finds Dow. He wants that hammer. But he'll take a lofty backhand to Shea. Shea needs to display some patience in here. Needs to take a really easy shot and not go hunting that goal. Resets to Dow. Dow to Grange. Grange fakes off Holmes. Looks Holmes on the second effort. Holmes throws the hammer. Shea with a goal. That is a much better looking offense from Canberra. That's much more like what we're seeing. That's the closest Sydney got to a block there, and it was Andrews poaching off his player. Holmes had that all read up though.
Yeah, that is beautiful offense for Freeze. That's exactly what we're looking for. They moved that disc up the field relatively easily. There were 0 turnovers, and that's what we want.
Absolutely. I could see in numerous times that they would see the first option coming, fake that off, and then that cutter would provide a second option, which was much less vulnerable to poach blocks, players getting in the lane. Something that Canberra have struggled to play offense against so far. The backhand on D now. Are you expecting any sort of changes from them this point?
I'm expecting them to... I think they're actually, now that they just got that point, that they're going to start moving better, moving more as a unit, having more communication. I know if your team is down and then you get that point, immediately after, you have fire in your blood, you're ready to play. Their spirits definitely have been lifted.
Absolutely, and they've come down in the zone, and if they've got that intensity, they can definitely bring it. Sydney at about the half field mark. Blakely with a disc. Finds Parsons. Parsons with the patience here. Goes back to Thomas. Canberra have gone back to a one-on-one defense, and that's a run-through block from Monty. Canberra need to take care of it here. Matthews Hunter with a disc, finds Lou. Lou puts it low and speedy, but Monty with a pickup and an immediate shot that's got float. And Blakely with enough of a contest. Barron couldn't reel that one in. Kneeled in the contest.
Disappointed.
Yeah, Canberra, golden opportunity, great block. Chung with a great read to keep that disc alive. Disappointing from Canberra. Second opportunity here. They're the ones running and gunning. Dawson with the disc. Dawson doesn't want the reset. Finds Matthews Hunter. Finds Lou in the center. Doesn't take the give go. Finds Monty. Monty will want to shoot. Monty resets to Lou. Lou with a lot of options. Finds Dawson. Dawson takes the late inside. Matthews Hunter's there. No break side options as yet. He puts a flick out. And they've done it. That was very difficult and it took them a lot of work. 2 shots at it. But that's a Canberra break.
Very exciting. I'm so happy that they basically have more confidence and they're totally showing it.
Absolutely. They've taken 2 points in a row now. That's their first break of the game. And they're going to need to show more of that. They really need to put a run of breaks together, bring this difference back, claw back before halftime. They can't be coming into the second half of this game with a 3 or 4 point mountain to climb. Putting that same line out there now, I think this is a good option from them. They're sticking with their lines, sticking with that chemistry, trusting that they'll adjust and work with each other enough to put this one in. Sydney looking to respond with one of their textbook offenses. They're going to want to put this one in. No worries, no trouble. Get themselves into the break and just snuff out any hope of Canberra going on a run here. Andrews with a disc. Finds Chulit in the center. Chulit takes the early inside. Alexander with a disc. Alexander finds Wentworth. Wentworth, no options. Lofts one up to Chulit. Free up the line. Chulit, marked by Lou. Chulit goes around, finds Andrews. Andrews, around again. Haberfield with a disc. Cutter's going long. Sydney using their men behind the disc and their women as cutters largely at the moment. Andrews has the disc, looks down the line for Chulit, but he's getting a bit goal hungry there. And this is what Canberra wanted. They've forced Sydney into a little bit of a difficult option, and the percentages have gone their way. They've got an opportunity here to bring it back within 2, to keep this momentum up, but they've got to treasure it. Matthews Hunter brings it in here and is struggling to reset. Goes wide. Suzuki, free as a bird. Suzuki, no options. Dump crowded behind, but gets the disc off. Dawson with it. Advances there. Patience with the disc. Suzuki on the line again. A lot of freeze players behind the frisbee. They're looking a bit fatigued, but it's too early for that. Dawson shoots inside. Finds Matthews Hunter. Not a lot of movement from Canberra. Matthews Hunter floats ones up, and Lou hops it in. That's what we're talking about. Canberra bring it back to within 2 points.
There we go. Seeing their defense this past point was just so different than their beginning points. They had such intensity, and it was so great to see just how hard they fought to cause Suns to give them a turnover.
Yeah, absolutely. The intensity, just like you talked about, is raised because they've got a couple of points on the board and they've got 2 breaks in a row now, so they'll absolutely be feeling it. Coming out with fire here. Sydney maybe a little bit rattled. And one of the things that was much better from Canberra in that point was that they were able to put it in on their first offensive try. They didn't have to get multiple blocks. They got just the one and were patient and considered enough that as soon as Chulet came out into the lane looking for something a little bit extra, Lou was able to streak deep. Matthews Hunter with a lovely, gentle disc for an easy goal. Dow with a pull. Sydney going back to that traditional offensive line. Thomas with the disc. Finds Chung. Back to Thomas. Frisky teammates working together. Back to Chung. Chung to Neild in the center. Neild goes wide to Blakely. Shea had a bit at it. Back to Blakely. Looks like Canberra have gone back to a one-on-one. Blakely goes wide. To Neild to Chung. Sydney right out the front now. And there's as you like. The silent snake himself, Blakely, squeezing it in at the front of the end zone. Chung with a pass straight to the chest, no contest. 7-4. Sydney take half with an easy hold.
And that's halftime.
Absolutely. We're going into the break here with the Suns 3 points ahead of Canberra. The Suns looked incredibly dominant, rattling off 3 points. The Freeze managing to hold once, and then the Suns immediately another 3 points. After that, Freeze came back with 3 points, and they looked like they had a lot of energy, and then Sydney were able to close out the half with an offensive hold. But there's signs of life here in this Canberra team. They've proven their ability to get the disc off Sydney. If they can't do it every offensive point, then they're not going to be able to get themselves back into this game. If Sydney can produce 6 more holds as clean as that last one, then there's nothing Canberra can do about it. But if Canberra can force Sydney out of their comfort zone, like Chris Stevens, the coach, was talking about earlier, as soon as Sydney have to do something different and moved out of their comfort zone, don't have that simple structure to run and have to work really hard for their chemistry, then that's where blocks can come. And we saw the Andrews-Chulet connection breakdown just before, and that's typically good as gold.
Absolutely. And we see Freeze, they have the players to be able to win this game. They have those strong throwers. They have those fast women receivers. It's really up to them to use them to their advantage. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how they can do that. The Suns have been beat. They were beat by the Melbourne Flames. And I think that Canberra can do that as well.
Absolutely. I think Canberra have the ability and technical skill to really take this game away. It's going to require them to really push Sydney. Sydney have only been giving the disc up when really, really under pressure. They haven't been just dropping it or giving any cheap blocks. So Canberra really need to amp the intensity again. Sydney will have taken this half-time as an opportunity to rest, remain calm, don't really need to change anything. Just keep expecting easy offensive holds. And Canberra need to be firing themselves up. Reap into that ice-cold heart of theirs. Find something good, find something they can use in this second half, because the defensive intensity has to be huge. If Canberra's going to get a block this point, they're going to need to come with a brick wall of energy. They're going to need to crush Sydney or have an exceptionally clean hold. Canberra the disc, Holmes on the sideline. Advances that one. Take their time there. Back to Shea in the center. Shea lets it rip. Well collected by Grange. Looks off Dow for the goal. Back to Shea. Shea takes the hard shot. Looks off the easy one. And Sydney with the disc. Haberfield shoots long. Chulet's gone. Shea's there, but Chulet with a position and space. And the disc out front of the end zone. Looking calm as a cucumber here. Goes back to Andrews. Andrews back to Chulet. Chulet goes around. Flick pops up and drops into the lap of Lee. That is a masterclass from Chulet. It's been Sydney taking advantage of the mismatches when they have them. Shea looking to throw the difficult pass for a goal. Throws it straight to the defender. And you can see if Chulet immediately takes off deep, trusting his speed and Haberfield his thrower. Sydney completes most of that break in just one pass. And then Chulet with a handling masterclass out the front of the end zone. And that's the Suns' break.
Right, the Frees are doing a relatively great job of shutting down those fast Suns receivers. It is up to shutting down those throws that have shown to be the problem.
Yeah, and that's something that their coach talked about. They needed to mitigate the impact of Chulet and Haberfield. And Haberfield shooting along to Chulet there. But Chulet has been largely unstoppable around the disc. And it's no surprise. It's one of the best in the business. As Canberra on offense again. Grange with the disc. Shoots long. Drops in short. But well collected by Holmes. Holmes goes to Shea. Needs to show some offensive discipline here. Shea pops one up to Dawson. She can't quite hold on that one, but Dow's there to make up for it. Around to Holmes. Canberra close here, but they can't afford to give Sydney even an inch. Holmes has no options. Goes wide. Mangan with the disc. Mangan rips a backhand. And that's Dow, and that's a Canberra hold. That's much better. A little too close for my liking. Sydney had a good couple of sniffs at the disc there. But it doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to work. That's a Freeze hold.
Right, I've definitely seen with Freeze a bit of a congestion with the handling. We've seen like up to four players in the handler area, and if they can clean that up, it will definitely be a benefit to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to see a bit more like quick, crisp lateral disc movement from this Canberra side. They are having a bit of trouble generating options downfield for their throwers, which is not surprising. The Sydney defenders are doing an incredibly great job, but if they're able to just get in a couple more comfortable swings, that'll give their cutters enough time to generate an option. And if they can maintain that patience all the way down the field, that'll be beautiful. We've seen them done it once before, once or twice. Be good to see them do it again. Matthews Hunter with a pull here. Shoots it out all the way to the end zone, and Andrews eventually getting a hold onto it. Back to Chulet. Chulet finds Wentworth. Wentworth takes the time, finds Lee, finds Alexander. Alexander, no options. Chulet struggling to get open, but makes it work and then rips it immediately. And that's out of reach of both Haberfield and Andrews. See Chulet doing a lot of work and managing to muscle his way past Lou to get that disc. But eventually yielding the opportunity to the Freeze. Matthews Hunter will bring the disc in on the cone here. This is a difficult position, and Chulet's guarding Lou extremely tight. He's unable to get open. Oh, and a quick jink back gives him the disc on the line, but just like we were talking about before, there's 3 to 4 players behind the disc. Lou has to go up the line to Monty, who throws it straight to the Suns. Wentworth with a block goes back to Chulet. Julett finds Haberfield on the far sideline. Haberfield lets it go. On Monty, bats that away, but Andrews stays with it. That's the lesson for you. Catch your Ds. Monty with all the position, timing, read on the play here. Not a care in the world. But leaves it in the air for Andrews to run onto. And that's a Suns goal. We're now at 9-5. So a 4-point lead. City have managed to stretch it out again in this second half. Really like snuffed out the Freeze comeback before it got going.
Right, I think you can see that it's not that the Suns are playing just extremely well, it's that the Freeze is not doing everything that they could be doing.
Yes, this is not the same Freeze that pushed Melbourne to within 2 points last round. This is... They started out weakly and, you know, got themselves back into the game and they're competing now. But they're not able to consistently put in. Spragg turns it over there. And Canberra on defense. Sydney with a short field. Dawson with a disc. Dawson finds Parsons right in front of the goal. And Sydney ruthlessly punishing. Spragg, one of the offensive anchors of this Canberra team, but unable to get that throw off. And Dawson, nigh on unguardable, gets the assist instead of the goal this time.
Yeah, I think we're definitely seeing that even though Freeze had that confidence in the middle of the first half, it has completely dissipated in this second half. These points are going by really quickly, and it's because the Freeze aren't able to hold on to that disc.
Yeah, it's pretty crushing as an offensive to, you know, get a hold and then come out and be like, right, now we're going to do it. It's our time to play offense, and barely be able to get to the brick marker just because of the ferociously tight mark that was on Spragg. Perhaps looking for a bit of an aggressive throw, but you're not going to win games staying at home. Dow with a disc. Goes up the line. Spragg shoots it in the middle. Holmes with a disc. Goes to Shea on the line. Shea finds Mangan. Mangan finds Grange. And then that's the goal for Canberra. That's much, much better. It looked very close, but Grange was able to take a grab under a lot of pressure. Chung doing her best there. And Grange just waited for an option. And that's Shea bursting out of the stack, giving her that outlet. And keeping it within 4.
Yeah, in that line, we definitely saw the Freeze throwing those open options, being more confident with the disc, and really working well together, communicating about where they want to throw and where that receiver wants to catch it.
Absolutely, and they're looking a lot better at that now. That communication, that chemistry is coming. But it has to be now. Their defense has to get a break now. We saw they were able to rattle off 3 in a row in the first half. If they're able to do that now, it'll be a 1-point game. But it's got to happen. Canberra knee breaks, and they are running out of time. This Sydney offense is too clean for them to expect anything else. Julett bringing up the disc, marked by Lou. Back to Andrews. Sydney looking patient as always. Alexander with a disc. Goes inside. Finds Wentworth. Wentworth with options up and down the field. Takes her time. Resets to Andrews. Andrews finds Julett immediately around. Julett getting whatever he wants right now. A beautiful around break. Finds Alexander. Back to Julett. Julett threatening all kinds of throws. And then gives it to Suzuki. Canberra with opportunity here. Dawson with a disc. Recess to Matthews Hunter. No options at the moment. Taking his time, letting one appear. Barron with a disc. Barron to Suzuki. Canberra at about the halfway mark now. Looks off Matthews Hunter. Got Lou in the dump space, guarded by Tullett. And then upline Jinx beaten Tullett, but they've let a Sydney Suns player go deep as they poach off the front. Andrews knocking on the door here. Looking for anything. Wentworth surveilling. Takes the late to Lee. Lee looking at that end zone. Sees Andrews in front of her. Oh, pops a low break, but it's down at the shins. And Andrews unable to grab that one and really just gifting it back to Canberra. Canberra did a great job to snatch that block up as soon as it was available, but couldn't clear that space around the disc and weren't able to recycle effectively enough and yielded Sydney the disc. So Lou looks to go around, goes out of the field, comes back in, but not completed. Really asking a lot of his receiver there. Very ambitious throw. Of course, if that disc doesn't come back in before it lands, Sydney takes it from where it went out. So he was lucky that one landed back in, as Chulett has the disc here. Chulett goes around Haberfield. Haberfield continues, finds Alexander. Alexander inside, finds Andrews. Andrews got a lot of options deep. Takes it easy around to Wentworth. Wentworth finds Alexander. Alexander really doing whatever she feels like and throws the goal to Andrews. A beautiful, shapy flip through that inside lane.
Yeah, we saw Freeze's defense kind of having a tough time transition back. We could totally see that most of those Sydney players were able to throw whatever they wanted.
Yeah, so particularly Alexander on a couple of points has looked just incredibly free under, and I think that's partly the Freeze looking to mitigate her impact as a strong deep receiver. She's incredibly fast and got great hops, but doing so lets her get the disc as much as they like and can use her devastating throws to effect there. But I think one of the less visible impacts of what she's doing and the other receivers for the Suns is even if they're not striking deep, they're coming back and they're comfortable recycling the disc and keeping that moving. And that on top of the effective handler movement of Tullett and Andrews means that the Sydney Suns have never really looked like they were unable to recycle or reset the disc.
Yeah, I totally agree. You can see that the Suns have no problem with their flow. They clearly have connections with each other. Most of them play with each other anyway on club teams, on single gender and mixed season.
Yeah, and the Suns pool coming back to about their own brick mark, and Canberra with a short field to work here. Mangan with a disc, looks for the backhand, finds Spragg, and signs of life again from this Canberra team. That's 3 holds in a row. Freeze Suns freeze again. Looks like things are cleaning up potentially here late in the game, but that's not to Canberra's advantage. If the defensive intensity drops late in the game and offenses become more effective, more calm, and holding more clinically, Sydney's going to get 2 more and win. Sydney wants to maintain their status quo. It is up to Canberra to flip this game on its head. Don't lose without throwing everything you have at them.
And that was a beautiful point by the Freeze. It was completely clinical. It was fast. It was beautiful. It looked like they've been playing together for years.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the benefits that would have come through very, very early on when these teams are selected. A lot of these players on the Suns team have experienced not just their domestic clubs playing together, but also international experience. A lot of these players having gone with Colony or with Frisky to the World Ultimate Club Championships earlier this year, and so that's an immense breeding ground for chemistry and inter-team connections. Intra-team. Chung finds Thomas, finds Blakely. Back to Thomas. Parsons on the open side here. Dawson just giving that break away. And Chung collecting the bobbled disc. As Matthews Hunter is unable to stop Thomas getting the disc and launching it. And Blakely just getting free deep. It was a lovely throw from Thomas. And you really would be hoping to see Matthews Hunter putting a lot more pressure on the throwers. Thomas doing all the work for this Suns offensive line. Blakely with the goal. 12-8.
Yep, now it's match point for Sydney. Let's see if they can end this game.
Yeah, they're going to want to end it on a break here. I think it's something that is often said late at the end of the game to try and spark a bit of intensity. But I think it's going to be very good for Sydney and their practice to be able to maintain high levels of intensity and efficient play across however long it takes to win AUL games. If they're able to maintain that intensity and power, that's what's going to help them close out very tight games, as I'm sure they'll be looking to do if they make the final. Holmes with a disc, ups to Sprague. Mangan's dropped that one in the center there. A little behind her on the throw, but definitely catchable. Once again, Chulett ambles to the disc and surveys his options before finding Andrews up the line. Andrews goes wide, finds Lee. Lee looks off the continuation, gets a mark to bite, goes back wide to Haberfield. Finds Wentworth inside. Tullett on the open side. Sydney working very, very well on this open side. Only needing 1 or 2 wide breaks. On Chulett shooting inside. It's an ambitious and aggressive throw, and it is just out the front of Haberfield. Very, very low and not sitting up in the wind like it hoped. Dow with the disc for Canberra. And there's a big hand on that. And that's a foul. This is a golden opportunity for Canberra. They need to do things they haven't been able to do, as they've had a chat about it and the fouls retracted. So that will be a Sydney disc. Canberra having to play defense in about 15 meters of space. Chulett comes to the disc. Shea on the mark. Chulett goes inside immediately. Wentworth floats one out. Big backhand. And Holmes with the read. Gets there first. Now they've got that disc in the hands of a strong thrower. Wide to Mangan. Mangan goes to open side. Dowell with the disc. Dowell to Mangan. Mangan to Sprague. To Shea. Back to Mangan. Canberra looking patient here. Shea with a disc. Finds Grange. Holmes. Back to Shea. They've had a bit of red line fever and turned it over here before. Commentator's curse, they've done it again. Canberra needed to be disciplined there. They've turned it over within about 15 to 20 meters of the end zone numerous times. They're just looking for that goal, cutting for the goal, not cutting for the disc. So making life difficult for their throwers. Chulett brings it back in for Sydney. Finds an easy one in Andrews. Andrews launches that one. Alexander in an acre of space. Waiting for a mark. Waiting for someone to throw it to. Goes to Lee in the center. Lee wide to Haberfield. Haberfield to Tullett. Back to Haberfield. Chulett close to the disc. Gets the around. And pops that one up It's still floating, and Dell over the top of Aberfield. Tight defense. Down to Spragg, to Holmes. Holmes to Grange. Marked by Alexander there. Gonna be having to work hard to get anything done. Dowell with the disc. Alexander roaming in the dump space. Dowell goes around to Holmes. We can see here a lot of slow-moving players behind the disc as Shea gets it in the midfield. Resets to Holmes, wide to Dowell. Finds Mangan on the open side. She's being marked deep by Lee. This goes to Shea and then to Holmes. Holmes looks off the line and shoots the hammer over the top. And that is just way too far for Spragg. Holmes, again, getting goal hungry, but it was late in the count there. He didn't have a lot of options, and so that's potentially more on his cutters for not engaging early enough. And there's been a long game, and Canberra having to play defense repeatedly and put in a high level of effort and intensity just to get the disc means they don't have a lot of gas left in the tank when it's time to play offense. Andrews bringing the disc up for the Suns here. Elects the immediate shot. Finds a nice break to Tullett. Tullett laying out with the disc. Pops that into the air for Dowell. Canberra going the other way. Holmes with a disc. Finds Mangan. Looks off the open shot. Exercising extra patience here. Floats that one up. Holmes with an unconvincing dump cut. Unable to generate any sort of separation from a Haberfield. And Mangan forced into a very difficult throw. Chula goes around to Andrews. Andrews calling his cutters. Not seeing anything. Puts that one out in front, and that's a great grab. Wentworth doing it all. Back to Andrews. Andrews, inside bouncy backhand. Lee looks it off. Alexander takes it instead. She wants to throw that goal. And Andrews doesn't want to hop it. He'll let someone else take the glory. Lee jinking well out the front. Andrews waits until the defense comes off. Pops the inside backhand around the defenders. A very crafty throw. Mangan leaves Lee just for about a half second. And Andrews with a punish. And that's been the story of the game, really. Canberra have been with it. Very close, very competitive, but just that last 10-15%. Sydney have ruthlessly punished as soon as they're given the opportunity.
An excellent game by the Sydney Suns and a great game from Canberra Freeze as well. It'll definitely be interesting seeing what happens next further on in round 4 and round 5.
Absolutely. Competition's really tightening up, and we can see which teams are sort of moving to the top and to the bottom of the ladder. There's distinctly a few undefeated teams, and they're very impressive, and they're the ones to beat. And Canberra really wanted to be giant slayers today, really wanted to, bring Sydney down a notch. Sydney not undefeated, not undefeatable, but proving too much for Canberra on the day today.
The Australian Ultimate League is only possible thanks to the generous support of our major partners. Bendigo Private Banking Services. Visit their website, bendigoprivate.com.au, to help you manage all your personal or business banking needs. Discraft. The leaders in flying discs for over 25 years. Their Ultrastar is the preferred disc of all World Championship events and the Australian Ultimate League. And Zone Ultimate Custom Sports Apparel. Check out their new range of custom warm-up jackets and pants at zoneultimate.com.